In this video, I will be covering the installation of Mysql Server, which is the database server on a local machine. Now, to do that, we've got to start off by downloading Mysql Server. This video is specifically for a MySQL installation, MySQL Server installation on a Macintosh. So to start off with, we will go to mysql.org, and this is the MySQL website. Now we want to click on downloads, scroll down, and downloads MySQL Community Edition. And the server we want to download is the MySQL Community Server. So click on MySQL Community Server. Now, MySQL Community Server is available for Macintosh. It's available for a variety of other operating systems. This installation is going to cover it for the Mac OS X. And so we are going to download the 64-bit DMG archive for Mac OS X. So I'm just going to hit on download. And then while it says login and sign up, I don't want y'all to do any of that. Just click on no thanks, just start my download. And down here, we can see it is downloading. It's going to take a couple of seconds. Depending on your connection speed, it's going to take longer or shorter. Okay, so it has downloaded. First thing we're going to do is open up that DMG. So if you're on a Macintosh, click on that DMG. It's going to verify, check it, and mount the DMG archive. And so you should see this box show up. MySQL 5.7.19, OS 10.12, package file. Double click on it. And you open up the MySQL Community Server installation. So we say continue right here. We will accept the software license agreement. You can hit continue. You must agree to the terms of the software license agreement, so we can agree to that. It tells us that it's going to take 1.18 GB of space on your computer. I'm going to say install. I'm not going to change the install location. Let it install where it wants it to. And then it's going to ask me a password because it's going to try to install new software on my machine. This might happen for your local machines as well. So just type in your local machine password. Install the software. Now it's going to write a bunch of files. Now, this is very, very critical. Do not just click on OK right here. This is a password generated for the root account on the server. So if you want to ever log in to the MySQL server that has been installed on your machine, you need to remember this password, or you need to take this password down somewhere. And so I am going to take a screenshot of this password. So on my Macintosh, I'm hitting Command Shift and 4, which allows me to highlight this box and take a screenshot of it and save it to the desktop. If we lose this password, that's a bad thing. So remember to note this password down or take a screenshot of it and store it. You're going to need this password very soon after. After you've done that, after you've noted this password down, click on OK. And click on Close. It's going to ask you what you want to do with the installer. You can move it to trash. And we are done installing MySQL Server on the local machine. We are done installing the MySQL Server on the local machine. Now the question is, how do you connect to this MySQL Server? Well, the first thing you need to do is you need to open up your database client. In this case, the database client is Workbench. So open up Workbench. We are going to add a new MySQL connection. So we click on plus right here. We will give this connection a name, just like we did for MIST SQL to connect to that database server. We are going to give the name localhost, because we are going to connect to a database server that has been installed on this machine. Now, before we set up this new connection, however, I just want to show you how do we know whether the server is running, how do we know whether the server is stopped running. To do that, you need to click on your system preferences on your Macintosh. Now, you will see after you have installed the server, this new MySQL that shows up under your system preferences. If you click on that, you will see a MySQL server status. Now, you can notice over here, MySQL server instance is stopped. Now, we can try to connect to the server, but we won't be able to connect to it because the MySQL server instance is not running. And so we want to start the MySQL server. So let's start it up. It's going to ask you for, again, your system password. This is not the password that you just stored, but this is your system password, your computer password, if you prefer that. And I typed in my computer's password, and we can see that it now says the MySQL server instance is running. And now I can go back to Workbench and connect to that running server. So I've set the connection name to be localhost. The host name is 127.0.0.1. You can leave this as it is. This 127.0.0.1 refers to the local host address. It's an IP address for your local machine. And 127.0.0.1 refers to your network card. It's a local network address. The port is 3306 and the username is root. Leave all of this as it is. You can click on test connection and it's going to ask you for a password. Now, this is the password that you have just saved, and I saved that password on the desktop, which was the screenshot. And the screenshot tells me the password. So I'm going to type that password in. It's and it will say failed to connect with user root. You must reset your password, right? Click on OK. Just click on OK right here. Now it's giving me an internal error. Auto detect local instance. I'm just going to close this. And I think what's happened is that while it was creating the local instance, it's not displaying it. So I'm just going to shut down Workbench right here. And if I have it right, what's going to happen is if I open up Workbench once again, the local host shows up. And this is fine, right? I think what happened was that Workbench had a problem just displaying the connection immediately. So I just shut down Workbench and I reopened it and I see localhost. This may happen, this may not happen for you in your specific installation of Workbench. If it doesn't happen to you, well and good. If it does happen to you, just shut it down and reopen it. You should see the localhost connection. Now, double click on this. Again, it's asking me for the password, and this is the very same password I just entered. And so I know it's a little bit painful, but type it out once again. And when you say okay, it's going to say, well, type out the password again and asks you for a new password. So type out that same password that was generated once again. I know I should have probably copied and pasted it, and that would have made my life easier, but that's okay. We're almost through with this process. And it's going to ask you for a new password, so pick a password, just make sure you remember it. Then you have to enter your new password. Click on OK. And now you are connected to the local host. You have now connected to the MySQL server that you are running on your local machine. And so, in case you ever lose a connection to a database server that you were supposed to be connecting to, you can connect to the MySQL server on your local machine to run your queries. You'll notice that there are some standard databases included: information schema, performance schema, and system. These are databases that are present in MySQL. You can create your own databases on the server. With root access, you are the administrator of this server. And that is how you set up your own database server and connect to your own database server using MySQL Workbench. Please remember, when you're done using your local database server, remember to shut it down, remember to stop it. And the reason you want to do this is because your database server, when it's running, is on the network. Other people can connect to your database server as well. You don't want to do that. You want to make sure that they can't. And so remember to stop your server when you're not using it. Thank you.